As a mark of respect to Queen Elizabeth, the state flags are flying at half-mast at all Singapore government buildings. China responds after President Joe Biden says the US would defend Taiwan if there's an unprecedented attack. And millions in Japan are told to stay alert after typhoon brings heavy rainfall and strong winds. It's Monday, September 19th. You're watching The Big Story with me, Haryanto Diman. Subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you will not miss an episode. Britain and the world today bid their final farewell to Queen Elizabeth II. Now here in Singapore, state flags at all government buildings are flying at half-mast as a mark of respect. Taking to Facebook earlier, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong said Her Majesty was a symbol of hope, stability and continuity. She was a true trailblazer of her time and will always be remembered for her deep sense of duty, devotion and contributions to the United Kingdom, the Commonwealth and to the world. The Queen's state funeral in London is about to begin and world leaders and royalty from across the globe are expected to be present at Her Majesty's final send-off, including Singapore's President Halimah Yacob, US President Joe Biden, Japanese Emperor Naruhito, and China's Vice President Wang Qishan. The Queen's great-grandchildren, Prince George and Princess Charlotte, will also be attending. Tens of millions in Britain and abroad are expected to watch the funeral of the monarch, something which has never been televised before. Now you can catch coverage of the funeral later on straitstimes.com. US military forces will defend Taiwan if there is an unprecedented attack. Well, that is what US President Joe Biden told CBS's 60 Minutes program, which aired on Sunday. When asked to clarify if he meant that, unlike in Ukraine, US forces would defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion, Mr. Biden replied yes. After the interview, the White House stressed that US policy has not changed. It continues to practice strategic ambiguity when it comes to Taiwan. Joining us with the latest reaction from Beijing is the Straits Times' China correspondent Danson Cheong. Danson, with tensions between the US and China at an all-time high, especially after US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's controversial visit to Taiwan, how have Chinese officials responded to these latest comments?
Well, the Chinese Foreign Ministry just said that the latest comments by Biden, seriously violates its One China principle, and also America's previous commitments to not support Taiwan independence. It also says that it's lodged a formal protest with the US, and that it won't tolerate any attempt at Taiwan secession. It also says that it reserves options to take any necessary measures to prevent something like this from happening. So the subtext here, is that the military option is very much on the table. As you said, Haryanto, we've had in the past months seen a series of moves from the US on Taiwan. You've had Pelosi's visit to Taiwan last month. The recent Taiwan Policy Act that's now awaiting approval from Congress. So from Beijing's perspective, I think it sees the US's Taiwan policy, in the context of US-China strategic competition. And, despite its repeated warnings on Taiwan, it feels like the US continues with these provocations. So it's becoming very clear to it that, Taiwan is just another aspect of Washington's policy to contain China.
This is not the first time Mr. Biden has made such remarks. So, Danson, how is this affecting China's thinking on the US's Taiwan policy?
You're right. This is the fourth time that Biden has said something like this. And like in all the previous three times, a White House official has had to walk back the president's comments and say that there's been no changes to the US's policy on Taiwan. But if you take a look at the interview, Biden was speaking very clearly and explicitly about the US's intentions. And he was asked twice, and so this is not a case of him misspeaking. So to the Chinese watching, it's very clear that the US's decades-long practice of strategic ambiguity is being very seriously eroded, if not already gone. And it's called strategic ambiguity because the US basically will not confirm whether or not it will come to Taiwan's defense in the event of an attack from the mainland. And for decades, this has sort of kept the peace because pro-independence elements in Taiwan cannot be sure if the US will come to Taiwan's defense if China attacks the island. On the other hand, Beijing is also deterred from taking military action because it can't be sure that the US will not interfere. But now that this ambiguity is gone, it kind of reinforces China's thinking that it needs to beef up its military capabilities so that it can retake Taiwan. Chinese analysts say it means basically that Beijing will have to be cautious, but it will be more determined about ramping up its military buildup to prepare for a possible invasion.
Thanks, Danson. ST's China correspondent, Danson Cheong. A new code of practice meant joining us with the safety culture in Singapore will be gazetted next month. Now, this comes amid a spate of workplace fatalities this year, with 37 deaths to date. Launching the code of practice today, Manpower Minister Tan See Leng says gazetting the code means that if a company commits an offence under the Workplace Safety and Health Act, the courts can consider compliance to these measures in their judgment. Conversely, adhering to the main principles outlined in the code can be considered a mitigating factor. He adds that the code of practice will apply to companies in all industries, even those that have no manual work or little risk of physical injury, as workplace safety and health also includes the mental well-being of workers. More than 18,000 doses of the NOVAVAX COVID-19 vaccine have been administered in Singapore as at August 31st. Of them, the Health Sciences Authority says it received 28 reports of adverse effects to the vaccine. 5 were serious, with 4 cases of an anaphylaxis and 1 serious allergic reaction. HSA adds that all the patients have recovered from the serious adverse reactions. A quick travel update, motorcycles will not be allowed to cross the causeway at Woodlands checkpoint from Tuesday 11 p.m. to Wednesday morning. The Immigration and Checkpoints Authority advises motorcyclists departing Singapore to use Tuas checkpoint instead. This is due to signage replacement works at Malaysia's Bangunan Sultan Iskandar CIQ complex. Overseas, southwestern Japan faces high winds, storm surges and potentially destructive landslides after Typhoon NANMADOL brought torrential rain to the region. At least 2 people were killed and some 10 million ordered to evacuate and seek shelter. Train services have been halted and about 800 flights cancelled as record amounts of rain are expected. Aftershocks continue to strike southeastern Taiwan, including a 5.5 magnitude earthquake that was felt in the capital, Taipei. This comes just a day after 1 person was killed and 150 more were injured in an earthquake in the town of Yuli, leading to torn-up roads and a handful of houses being brought down. The rural and sparsely populated area has been experiencing jolts since Saturday. Those are top stories today. Visit straighttimes.com for more news and our YouTube channel for more videos. Subscribe by clicking the red button below. I'm Haryanto Diman. See you tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.